When my dad passed away, I thought we'd come closer as a family, but instead, we drifted apart. It didn't happen all at once. It wasn't loud or angry. It was quiet, like a slow, fading light in a house we all used to live in. I remember the day of the funeral. The house was full of people, neighbors, friends, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Everyone was hugging, crying, sharing stories about Dad. He was the kind of man who made people laugh even when they didn't want to. Mom was sitting in the corner of the living room, holding his old cap in her hands. She didn't cry much. She just kept whispering, "He used to wear this every morning when he went out to feed the birds." That small moment, it broke something inside me. You grow up thinking your parents are strong, that they'll always be there to hold things together. But after Dad was gone, it felt like the glue of our family had disappeared with him. At first, we tried to stay connected. My brother Michael called every day. My sister Anna cooked dinner at Mom's house every Sunday. And I tried to keep everyone smiling, the way Dad used to. But slowly, the calls got shorter. The dinners turned into excuses, and silence filled the spaces where laughter used to live. Sometimes I'd pick up my phone, open our family group chat, and just stare at the last message Dad ever sent. "Proud of you all. Don't forget family comes first." I used to think those words would hold us together, but maybe we didn't really understand what they meant. We were never a perfect family, but we were a real one. Dad was a truck driver. He spent half his life on the road, but when he came home, the house lit up. Mom used to say, "When your father walks in, even the walls start talking." He was the kind of man who didn't say, "I love you" much, but you felt it in the way he checked the tires before you drove, or how he left the porch light on when you were late. We grew up in a small town in Ohio, a quiet neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. Dad used to take us fishing at Miller's Pond on weekends. We'd sit there for hours. Sometimes we didn't even catch anything, but he'd say, "It's not about the fish, it's about the peace." Now, when I think back, I realize he was teaching us patience, not fishing. After he passed, we all tried to fill that empty space differently. Mom started gardening more. Michael threw himself into work. Anna became quieter, distant. And me? I tried to be the bridge, the one who checked on everyone, the one who said, "Let's not forget Sunday dinners." But the truth is, you can't force people to grieve the same way. And sometimes, when everyone's hurting, it's easier to stay apart than to come together. One Sunday, I drove to Mom's house with a casserole, just like old times. But when I got there, the house was too quiet. No smell of food, no TV in the background. Just Mom sitting at the kitchen table looking at Dad's photo. She smiled faintly and said, "You came." I nodded. "Where's Anna?" She said she was busy. And Michael? He texted, said he had a meeting. We sat there in silence, two people trying to pretend that silence didn't hurt. I asked softly, "Do you think we'll ever be the same again?" Mom looked down and said, "Maybe we were never meant to be the same. Maybe we're just learning how to live with the pieces." That line stayed with me. As months passed, we saw each other less and less. Birthdays were just text messages. Holidays became awkward gatherings where no one really talked about Dad, as if mentioning him might reopen the wound. The first Christmas without him was the hardest. Mom put up the tree but didn't hang his favorite ornament, a small wooden truck he carved himself. When I asked her why, she said, "I can't look at it yet." That night, Michael didn't show up. He said he had a flight early next morning. Anna came late, stayed quiet the whole time, and left before dessert. I sat at the dinner table, staring at the empty chair where Dad used to sit, telling his same old stories, laughing at his own jokes. The house felt too big, too quiet, too hollow. Later that night, I found Mom in the kitchen washing the same cup over and over. Her hands were trembling. I said, "Mom, it's clean." She looked up and whispered, "He always drank from this cup." I wanted to hug her, but something in me froze. Grief makes people gentle on the outside but fragile on the inside. You never know what might make them break. As time went by, small misunderstandings turned into distance. Michael said Mom was too emotional. Anna said she felt unappreciated. And I was stuck in the middle, trying to remind them that we were still a family. One day, I tried to organize a memorial dinner for Dad's 1-year anniversary. I thought it would be healing, but when I told them, Michael said, "I can't make it, I've got a conference." Anna said, "I don't see the point. It just brings up sadness." I hung up the phone, holding back tears. For a long moment, I just sat on the edge of my bed, looking at Dad's picture on my nightstand. He was smiling, that quiet, steady smile that used to calm everything. I whispered, "Dad, I'm trying." But they're slipping away. The turning point came one spring morning, almost 2 years after Dad's death. Mom called me early, her voice shaky. "Can you come over? I need to talk." When I arrived, she was sitting on the porch, holding an envelope. She said softly, "I found this in your father's old desk." It was a letter, handwritten, folded neatly, addressed to my family. We sat together as I read it out loud. Dad's voice echoed in my head with every line. "If you're reading this, it means I couldn't stay as long as I wanted, but I hope you all keep talking to each other. I've seen how small things can grow into silence. Don't let that happen. Remember, a family doesn't need to agree on everything. It just needs to keep showing up." Mom wiped her tears and said, "He knew this would happen." I nodded, my throat tightening. He always knew how to read us. That night, I tried calling Michael and Anna, but neither picked up. So I sent them a photo of the letter, with a message. Dad wanted us to keep showing up. Anna replied hours later, "I don't know what to say." Michael didn't reply at all. That was the moment I stopped trying to fix everything, not out of anger, but because I realized that sometimes love doesn't mean holding people close. Sometimes it means letting them find their own way back, even if they never do. Time moved on quietly, the way it always does. Mom grew older. Her hands started shaking when she poured tea, but she still watered Dad's roses every morning. Michael called once in a while. Anna sent holiday cards. We were still a family, just a distant one. One afternoon, I visited Mom, and we sat on the porch again, the same place she gave me Dad's letter. She looked at the sunset and said, "You know, I used to think family was about being together, but maybe it's about carrying each other, even when we're apart." I smiled through my tears. Maybe that was true. When I drove home that evening, I passed Miller's Pond, the place Dad loved. I parked the car and sat by the water, just listening to the wind. The pond hadn't changed, but everything else had. I whispered, "Dad, I miss how simple things used to be." And for the first time, I didn't feel angry or lonely, just thankful. Thankful that I once had something so good that losing it still hurt. Now it's been 5 years since Dad passed. The house we grew up in is quieter than ever, but it's filled with memories. Sunday dinners, laughter, fishing trips, the smell of Mom's pie. Sometimes I walk through those rooms and feel like I can still hear his voice. Family comes first. We may not talk as much anymore. We may live our separate lives, but a part of us is still connected, in small, invisible ways. When I water my plants, I think of Mom. When I see an old truck, I think of Dad. When I scroll past a photo of us as kids, I smile, and I forgive us. Because maybe love doesn't disappear when people drift apart. Maybe it just changes shape, becoming memories, quiet prayers, or the way you still set an extra plate at the table without realizing it. If Dad were here, I think he'd tell us not to be sad. He'd probably laugh and say, "You're all still stubborn just like me." And maybe that's true. Sometimes families don't stay the same after someone leaves. Sometimes they break a little. But even broken things can still hold love. So when people ask me if we still talk like we used to, I smile softly and say, no, but I still love them the same.